I'm performing my ritual of successfully being happy that I remembered to hit record.
That's important.
So far, I've been in really good shape with this.
Yeah.
So welcome to episode whatever. And I'm here with my friend Trever Avon, who is I don't know what you're a wrestler, but I don't know what the circuit is,
hmm
or like where like it's not the WWF or whatever, but.
Since I'm independent, so like I basically work for everybody, pretty
Mhm.
much. Yeah.
Okay. So what was the first thing that you remember that you got really into it? It could be anything. It doesn't have to be even related to this. When you
hmm
were a kid, the thing that like made you want to know all about whatever that was.
the first thing that I really became obsessed with actually was music,
Hmm.
and it just came from my mom would play different stuff around the house, and I would just kind of easily get sucked into that. And she didn't have like a real diverse palette of music. It was really mostly just like R&B, like old soul, but since my mom's like 65, it was a really good era. So it was especially as it got more towards the 90s.
Hmm.
Like there's like Mary J. Blige and SWV and Escape and Joe and stuff like that, and like Michael Jackson, Prince, which I was more in the 80s. But I wanted to be Michael Jackson and Prince when I was a kid. And if you like, even now, a lot of that stuff that I got from watching those guys back then, I use all of it in wrestling now. That's why
Right, right.
my presentation
Yeah,
is
it's
so
all
like,
theater and yeah, absolutely.
mm-hmm. And I would go down rabbit holes. I would get obsessed and just want to like, oh, I want to hear all the songs. I want to know
Mhm.
all the things about all the information I could find. But back then it wasn't that easy
No, of
because
course, yeah.
yeah, I you could read the little CD booklets, but that was all I had,
Hmm.
and I would read them over and over again. I read them back and forth all the time.
Yeah, well, and that's another one of those things the digital world has taken from us.
hmm
As an artist, I'm still very cheesed about that, and I still want to put records out with all that stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like it really did add so much to the experience of it.
it really does.
And
I had I think around that time too, because I was as early as I remember, it's probably like 5 and 6. I started getting obsessed with other little things that came along with that, and just my little weird obsession with music turned into like every time I got obsessed with something, I reacted the same way. So
mhm.
like dinosaurs, and then like Ninja Turtles and outer space, and just I was just like, I want to know everything. It's probably a long list of things at this point.
Of course, of course. Um, so what you just got right out of the ring and came.
hmm
So thank you very much for that. Um, so are you able to basically just support yourself doing this?
Um, yes and no. There is some for because I have to, especially because of how physical wrestling is. I also have to have insurance, so
Right,
I have to keep something that allows me to pay for insurance and it not be so expensive. Because
right.
just expensive, just insurance on your own is super freaking high.
Oh well, yeah, I know that's what we have to do. So yeah.
Yeah, but like realistically speaking, I could just wrestle full time,
Hmm.
but it would not be wise for me to do it, in especially not now with the madness.
Yeah, yeah. We're all, or at least many of us, are very
Yeah.
unhappy with the situation at the moment.
hmm
Um, so how did you get started doing this? And yeah.
So, to make a long, boring story not as long and a little less boring, is when I was in high school, I had a friend who I used to sit in class with and talk about wrestling all the time. And one day, just out of the blue, he was like, "Yo, remember when we used to talk about wrestling all the time? I'm a wrestler now." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And I showed up to his show and I stayed for the whole show and I helped to clean up and everything. And I was like, okay, so who do I talk to? How do I get to join too? And one of the other guys was like, hey, here's an address and a name for some people who can train you the right way. Go there on Monday and they'll get you started. And I showed up there that Monday and here we are 13 years later.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
You It always makes me happy when I see or hear about people that like just make this decision that they're going to go and the opportunity presents itself. And that's one of the reoccurring themes within a lot of this is somebody kind of something happening and just saying yes, even though you don't know all the details or how it's all going to play out, you know?
Yeah. Cause I literally, and you know, it's so funny. The dude who told me to go get trained, he's like, yeah, man, I'll be there too. So, you know, you'll at least know somebody. How about on the way there? He's like, hey, man, I'm not going to make it. And I'm like, oh, God. So
Right.
I'm going through this thing blind. I don't know nobody. I don't have any, because a lot of people come into wrestling, they know somebody or they have family that were involved. And so I
Mhm.
came into wrestling with nothing. So it's a completely different business when you come in cold, blind, don't know nothing. So all your connections, you got to make them all. You got to learn everything on your own. You don't have nobody to like hold your hand. And if you're lucky, you'll get a good trainer who will actually care enough about you to help you. And
Right.
I got lucky that every mentor I've had has been great. But
Yeah, it seems like one of those things where so many people want to do it that it would be like there'd be a lot of scammers, things like that.
oh
People
yeah,
know what they're
yeah.
doing who are like, well, I trained in my backyard, so I know what I'm doing, kind of.
And it just and it's dangerous. Like it
Mhm.
don't take much to get hurt doing this. It don't take much to drop somebody on the head and all of a sudden they can't walk. Like
Right.
so having and it's a lot better now because when I started wrestling was the Wild Wild West still when I started. So
Mhm.
like people were still bringing their guns into the locker rooms. And because I when I started, it was kind of coming off the cusp of like the era in the 2000s and the 90s where shit was off the rails.
Mhm.
And now it's a lot more streamlined. There's a lot more schools. Most of those schools are connected to like WWE or one of the major companies, so they have to do things the right way, and that makes this a lot safer for everybody.
So you just travel up and down like every time I talk to you, you're going somewhere to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that so you're independent. Like I this is one of the things about this podcast. That I literally know dick about how any of this works. Uh even like I'm aware wrestling exists and people enjoy it. And
Mm-hmm.
um I now know two people who are involved at the level that you're at doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um so if you give me an overview of kind of what your world is for this.
So hilariously, wrestling, especially when you once you get to the point where you start traveling a lot, wrestling and music are really not that different.
Hmm.
It's the process is the same. We basically go through the same crap. The only difference is I have less stuff to carry around because I don't have an instrument or machines or anything. All I got is tights and my entrance gear. My entrance gear is pretty elaborate, so that's kind of big. But for the most part, that's about it.
Hmm.
We everything's negotiations. A lot of
Do you have a
times,
manager or do you just do all your yourself?
yeah, everything's me.
That's
It would
cool.
be nice. I wish I had a manager. It would make this so much easier. But there aren't really. We really only have like two or three actual agents, managers in wrestling, and they basically really only agent the major people. So
Hmm.
most of us, they don't really do anything for us. They except give you advice because all those guys have been like super nice to me and they tell me what, if I ask them questions, they will honestly answer the questions for me. So that information is always useful.
Yeah,
But
I love that
yeah,
sort of mentorship attitude. I always, whenever I give people advice about the stuff that I do, I'm always just like, thank me. I'm like, you don't have to. Like, I learned to do this because other bands,
hmm
other artists or whatever, told me how to do it, and I would be a
hmm
dick if I didn't pass that on.
yeah.
So,
And it doesn't help any of us to not tell each other like
yeah,
what we're
exactly,
doing.
exactly. Knowledge wants to be free, and honestly, if you were like somebody else who I was talking to, was talking about an artist who people would come up and show them their portfolio, and he would just like tear them up, and
Yeah,
eventually you heard the guy say, "Yeah, it's because they'd be competition for me," and like that's just such bullshit.
yeah, it's stupid.
Like it makes that kind of shit just makes me so fucking angry. So it's great that it is as supportive, and I imagine it's one of those things too. Like you see. Within the boxing community or something where you're doing your job and your job is to fight
hmm
that guy.
hmm
You don't have anything against that guy. So when you're done, you're able to like all the animosity and all that stuff is just part of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
theater
You,
of the
you turn
thing.
that shit off when the
Right.
when the fight's over. You turn it off, or at least you're
Yeah.
supposed to.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, like, I get show business, and it always amazes me when you get these bands that, like my job is to go up on stage, and when I'm on stage, I'm that guy, and that's cool. But
Hmm.
when I'm off stage, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me the people who don't quite get that, and they try and have that persona or whatever the entire time, and it's like it
Hmm.
show that's the show part is there. But if you start believing your own hype, it never ends
Yeah.
well.
And you'd be surprised that especially with, I guess, because of how wrestling is, it goes to people's heads a lot.
I'm sure.
And every time I meet new wrestlers and younger wrestlers, I always tell, it's one of the first things I always tell them: do not let the shit go to your head,
Hmm.
because as quick as you're blowing up and you're getting hot, these people will forget about you tomorrow. So
Yeah.
like, help each other and don't be a dick.
Yep. Yep.
It's really not hard, but
Yeah,
some
yeah,
people
but
make
I
it
mean,
hard.
but it isn't, but it doesn't. When you don't have any basis for comparison, if you're new to it,
Hmm.
like you see a band, they'll go out and they'll blow up really quick, and all of a sudden, it makes sense. Everybody is there to serve whatever they're doing.
Hmm.
But it's all the like when we're on the road, you never get shit from other working bands. It's always like the local hot shots. So I
Yeah.
imagine it's kind of a similar sort of deal with you, where it's just like, you know, I'm just here to do my job, and then whoever's local, they always have much more to prove or whatever.
Hmm. And I'm like, look, if I'm here to work with you, I'm here to make you look good. Like,
Right.
I'm not trying to make it, I'm not trying to walk into your territory, your space, and be like, oh, fuck this guy, I'm bigger than them. Like, no, that's not how it works. Because we don't make any money that way anyway. Like,
Right.
no one's going to want to come see you again if I come in here and make you look like shit and then I leave. Then I also have nothing to come back to. I can't come back here now.
So, and this is one of those sticky questions, and if it is weird, I will go and delete it. But how um, preordained is it? Is it something like I literally, really, I have no idea how any of this works.
Hmm.
So I'm just kind of basing this on the stuff that I've gleaned here and there.
Yeah.
Do you go in with an agenda, or is it told you, or?
So usually, yeah, most promoters have an idea of the story they want you to tell.
Mhm.
When they don't, you kind of just wing it. There's usually normally they have the outcome for us, and the rest of it is just how we get there is our decision.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay, yeah.
a lot of what you see in the ring is improv.
Yeah.
We if you're lucky, you have either met your opponent or they have enough material online that you can see what they do. I like to study people a little bit before, if I know who they are beforehand. But sometimes you get to the show and that guy didn't show up,
Right.
or your match got changed, or they just all of a sudden decided that, oh, we want to do this instead of that,
Hmm.
or just little things like that where your whole game plan has to change.
Right.
But if you're lucky, if you know who you're wrestling when you get there, you can check them out online and see what they do and see how what you do can match with what they do.
Yeah, that must be a very interesting experience.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I've showed up to shows and I had one idea, and then
mhm.
when I got here, they're like, "Hey, so now that match you were in that was a one-on-one, now there are six of you,
Right.
and then there's this guy you can't do this with him because he doesn't do this, and or the story we're telling with him means that you need to keep him from being involved in these sort of things." There's a lot of moving parts,
Yeah, I can
and
imagine.
yeah.
Are you like it's always remarkable to me how much actual communication there is for bands on stage. It's
Mm-hmm.
very easy for us to you either have been doing it for so long that you can just look at somebody, but you can also just literally walk over and just say something and
Mm-hmm.
keep it. So how much communication are you able to do in the moment while you're fighting?
Honestly, like that's probably our biggest saving grace is being able to communicate with each other while we're doing things. Now there's an art and a skill to it, and if you learn it early, the whole job becomes easier. I've gotten really good at it, so I even have things that I do in my offense that
Mhm.
are useful for me to talk to the person, or for me to be like, "Hey, look, this is you do this way," or "Hey, I need you to go over here." If all else fails, the referee's there. You can
Mhm.
always relay messages through him, because sometimes you just threw that guy out the ring and you need to talk to him. Well, he's all the way over there, and you
Right,
can't just walk over there because now you both look stupid. But you
right.
can, hey, I just threw that guy on the floor. Referee, go check on him and tell him I said to get up and climb the top rope.
Hmm.
Just little like it's like passing notes back and forth.
Hmm.
Because the way I wrestle is closer to real fighting than normal. I usually am always making some kind of contact with the person. I always have something on them. So if I'm close to the guy, I've got my hand on his wrist. I can grab his head. I can move him around. I can put his head here so I can say whatever the hell I need to say, and then we can go back to whatever we were supposed to do. But
Have you?
it's a lot of constant communication.
Yeah, yeah.
When it's not a lot of constant communication, it's body language. Because I've
Right.
wrestled some people who don't speak a lot of English, so I can't really talk to him. But I can I can raise my arm this way so he knows that this arm is coming at him.
Oh, okay.
Little things like that. Because when
Really,
I
really
wrestled in Japan, like
telegraphing.
it was we there's very little English when I wrestled in Japan. Like it was
Hmm.
very like body language, shoulder, hey, your move is this, just little things like that.
Hmm.
But
You have such a strong
it's second nature.
personality. I'm sure you did really well in Japan. Like I have a hard time imagining you not do well just because you're just such a not like I can't speak as much about your wrestling persona, but just as a person, you've it's very much you still have this very genuine, larger than life. This is what I do, and I love it sort of thing. And in my experience with entertainment, like that goes such a long, long way, and I can't imagine it would be different for you.
Yeah. I didn't want to come back. COVID happened like right after I came back, so I
Uh,
didn't get to go back again, or at least not yet. I'm working on it, but
yeah, yeah,
it took me a long time to make that first trip happen.
right,
So
right.
it's just yeah,
Did they
there's
come
a
to you, or did you have to kind of start sniffing around and?
both.
Hmm.
It was kind of both. Like I went sniffing around, and then they ended up here, and I just kept sniffing around, and I ended up in front of the right people.
Yeah, that's such a huge part of, that's one of those things with that like with any performance, you never know who you're performing for.
Hmm.
And that goes such a long, long way to like that's one of the reasons you always do your job as good as you can because you just
Yeah,
never know. And sometimes you just don't know who you know.
yeah.
Um, so do you have any professional like fight training in addition to this, or is it just
So yeah, I was in boxing and kickboxing before I got in wrestling.
mhm.
And I originally wanted to be a boxer. Like I was locked in and sucked into that. And I had like the wrestling bug like in the back of my head, but I'm like, oh, I'm too small. But I said because when I was boxing, I was like 170. And if I was gonna fight, I wouldn't be because I'm 210 right now. I would
Mhm.
not carry this much weight around if I was going to actually fight.
Mhm.
I'd probably drop like 40 pounds because I'd be way faster.
Mhm.
And I was just kind of like, you know what? All else fails, if I suck, I don't have to do it again. I'll just try it anyway. We'll see what
Oh
happens.
yeah, yeah.
And it just it took a while to learn some things, but a lot of it kind of came naturally.
Hmm.
I thought I was already in shape when I showed up for wrestling training, and it turns out that nothing prepares you for this. Because
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
imagine it's
oh,
much more full body that, like training
mm-hmm,
to for this kind of thing, like
mm-hmm,
there, but the more full body exhaustion, picking somebody up or all that,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. And then like with boxing or even or with real fighting in general, you ain't got to get hit if you don't want to. You
Mhm.
ain't got to get slammed if you don't want to. You can avoid those things. If you're good enough, you can stop people from doing that. Wrestling don't
Right.
work like that. You are going to get hit because it's part of
Right,
the
it's
job.
part of the job. Yeah.
And it's just one of those things you get used to. Like that's another one of those things I tell new wrestlers all the time. And I'm like, look, I know what you've heard about this, and you probably grew up watching it like I did, so you probably have some preconceived notions. Let all of it go right now. You're gonna hit this mat, and it's gonna suck. It hurts. It's painful. Sorry, you get used to it. Because
Yeah.
most people think it's like a trampoline or it's like really soft. It's it's padded, but it ain't really soft. It
Right.
just because there's boards underneath and they're not nailed down, it has give to it,
Right.
and that makes it loud and that makes it make noise, and that's all part of the theater aspect. But it
Mhm.
still hurts, and
Right.
you
Yeah.
just kind of get used to it. Like,
Yeah. The guy that I take martial arts with, he was at one point we were talking about that, and he was like, you have to get in your head the difference between injury and pain.
mm-hmm,
Like you can be in pain because that's part of it. If I put you in an arm lock and bend it backward, it's going to hurt,
mm-hmm,
but you're not in.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Uh, Something that he and I have talked about before that I'm curious for with you. So we talk about how like he was showing me all these like illegal moves in fighting,
Yeah.
in tournament fighting. And he was like, but the problem is that you're trained to do these things. So you've got this step, this step, this step ends up here with your arm broken or, whatever. And you can't do that because it's too easy to really seriously hurt somebody in a tournament. So,
Hmm.
training to do all of this stuff, uh, how much, how difficult is that to not follow through or not hurt somebody because you've kind of trained your body already to do that?
That's probably the hardest part about the physical aspect is you have to dial back like a lot of things you do. Because if you're like you roll through and you catch somebody in an armbar, you're not supposed to actually break their arm.
Right.
So you have to find ways to not pull all the way back or find ways to make it look dangerous but still be safe. And like, for example, a lot of my offense, and I tell people this when I wrestle them all the time, my offense just happens to you. You don't have to help me do anything. I don't need you to help me lift you or anything like that. Just let it happen.
Mm.
But I have to put you down safely and still make it look nasty. Thankfully, like I've been at that so long, that part's easy. But even throwing, especially throwing strikes, kicks, elbows, knees, especially, there's very little there's very little room for error because if you throw a knee full force in somebody's face, you're smashing all these bones.
Right.
If you pull it back just enough that you touch and
And then
enough for them to react,
Mhm.
and it looks great. It
Mhm.
looks like you need the hell out of somebody, but you don't hurt them at all. And
Mhm.
that's the hard part of it. That's really the hard part of this because it takes a lot of time and a lot of practice to get to that point. Especially if you were used to punching things for real before,
Right.
you got to learn to not drive the fist all the way to the face.
Yeah,
I
that's one of the things
learned,
that I've been working with him on the reverse version of that. It's like I'm
mm-hmm,
used to stopping
yeah,
here so I don't hit you in the nose.
mm-hmm,
But it's like, so how do I, how am I practicing that, with the pads? So I'm
mm-hmm,
hitting hard enough so that it comes up,
yeah,
figuring out where that little tiny little space of stopping there, punching through your head. You
uh-huh.
So,
I learned so my trainer had us, we would stand in front of a post, and it's funny because we did this in boxing too. We were trying to gauge our distance for throwing punches, and you would stand in front of a ring post, and you want to swing at it, you want the punch to look good, you want to swing all the way through like you're really throwing a punch, but you want to stop after you make contact.
mhm.
Once you bash your hand on that post one time, you'll probably never do it again. I hit the post
Right.
hard once. After that, all my punches were great.
Hmm.
And you treat the post like it's somebody's face.
Right.
And the pain of you punching that post is that you just punching somebody in the face.
Hmm.
If you do that one time, once or twice, you won't do it again.
Yep.
So to this day, like all of my stuff looks brutal, but I'm not killing anybody, which is a thing I'm very, very, very much proud of.
How have you ever accidentally injured somebody like badly?
So far, no.
Like, oh,
Um,
13 years. That's pretty remarkable.
yeah, some of my strikes may have come in a little hotter than normal,
Mhm.
just because of maybe they're moving, I'm moving, or a bad gauge of distance sometimes. But other than that, like I haven't broken any bones, knocked out anybody's teeth, or knocked nobody out in the middle of the match.
That's ridiculously impressive to me. Like the level of skill and control. I think that's
Yeah.
really fucking cool. Like that's one of the things about this series that I just think is so enjoyable for me is meeting the people that like are just that good at whatever it is they do.
Hmm.
So how about you? How have you been seriously injured at all? Or
So far, no. Like I haven't had any major injuries. I've been like kicked in the face a good amount of times. Like never broken nose or anything. Like I bite myself in the lip all the fucking time. But other than that, like, and I lean into things anyway because I don't mind getting hit.
Mhm.
I know where the line is. So when I feel something coming, I know when to move myself.
Right, right.
But so far, just aside from the usual bumps and bruises, being banged up after a long weekend, especially if it's like this week, I only have tonight and tomorrow. But then I have some weeks where it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Mm.
Some weeks where it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then those Monday those Monday mornings where you're like, what? This hurts.
It's a great story from Lord of the Rings. Jonathan Rhys Davies, who played Gimli the dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
The stunt orcs would be like, look, we're going to be here, and if you hit us, it's okay. You don't have to try and not hit us. But whoever was relaying the story is like, and he just hit them full on every fucking time. And uh, you look at that as just part of the gig, and I
Yeah.
think that if I was in either of those positions, it's like this is yeah, I mean this is part of the job, so
Mm-hmm. I know what I signed up for. So like, because
yeah,
people
right,
people will hit you hard all the time, and they're like, "Man, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "Dude, it's fine.
yeah,
Like, if
right.
you didn't break, if I can still see, and you didn't break any bones, and I can breathe, you didn't break my nose and knock out any teeth, not a big deal.
Hmm.
Like, I don't mind getting hit hard. Like, I was getting punched in the face for real before this, so it's okay."
So wrestling is as I understand it, wrestling is kind of the only sport that fighting sport that everything is as theatrical and preordained as it is. Everything else seems
Yeah.
very like with MME and that sort of stuff, where like yes, they're bad guys, but they're shit people. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're playing that up and things like that. Whereas this,
Yeah.
it's very much manufacturing your character, your vibe, your whole
Yeah.
much like what we do. I always tell people in bands, I was like, you need to, as far as your stage persona goes, and it can be you, but it's you turned up, and
Yeah.
you want to look at this idea of like you're an action figure with a bunch of other action figures, and that's
Mm-hmm.
which actually leads me to one of my favorite things is standing off from afar and watching your internet persona. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
its thing. It's very stylish. You got the hats and the demon stuff, and I was telling somebody else the other day, I was like, I tend to like anything that's over the top. Like you turn it up to 10 and then a little bit more,
Yeah.
usually where the real interesting stuff starts to happen. Um, and you have no manager, so this is all something you've developed yourself.
Mm-hmm. I just I basically just took like the imagery of things that I find appealing,
Hmm.
and then the different stuff that I like. Like I'm a big Spawn fan.
Hmm. Oh,
Uh,
now I think about it, yeah.
my name was taken from the Eon Flux cartoon.
Hmm.
Um, and I just kind of took that stuff and just started mashing it together. And then I'm like, okay, what is nobody else doing that looks like me? All right, well, because there's plenty of dark characters in wrestling. So I'm just kind of like, okay, how can I differentiate myself from these guys? How can I not be the Undertaker?
Right.
Okay, well, the Undertaker doesn't have any horns. Cool. Well, he doesn't wear a crazy face mask. And then it started there, and I just started adding stuff.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, and I look at all the different like kind of demons or devils or darker entities and all the different mythologies, and I just start pulling from all of them.
Hmm. Yeah, you figure out what works for you.
Mm-hmm. And then if I find one I like, I get like a mask or something made that kind of goes with it, and then I just weave my personal like style of dress into it, and that's basically how my entrance gear comes about.
Well, yeah, that was what I was going to ask about. I assume your entrance gear, if it's based on your photos or whatever, is over the
Mm-hmm.
top, lots of
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah.
stuff. But you're not
Mm-hmm.
fighting it.
Yeah. No, I take all of that. I take all of that stuff off because I like to like the action. I like to be as open and like maneuverable as possible, and it's a lot harder to do when you're wearing a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah, if you're not
design my
comfortable.
outfits to come off.
Hmm.
And I used to do I was dating a burlesque dancer at the time, and I did acts with her, and I just took from that and said, you know what if I did that in wrestling? What if I peeled stuff off
Hmm.
instead of wearing all of this shit? I'll
Hmm.
strip down to just basic pants, boots, and just enough so that I'm covered. But when I come out, it's like a huge production.
Yeah, yeah.
And that works out really, really well, and it makes it easier for me to do stuff because I originally wanted to wrestle under a mask,
Hmm.
but like my trainer liked my facial expressions, and
Hmm.
then that became a thing that I was like, okay, well that's something I can use to sell myself.
Hmm.
All right, well, no mask. But what if I came out in a mask and didn't wear it the whole time?
Yeah, man. We used to tour with this band or play with this band, and they would do this very cool thing where they'd have scrim in front of them, and they'd do projections onto that and behind them, and that was
Hmm.
really cool for like 3 songs. And I was like, now you need to drop it
Yeah.
and be you right out in front owning it, or like
Hmm.
me with the wolf mask, like yeah, I'll wear that for a few songs, but then it needs to come off because otherwise you are losing this method of communication and
Hmm.
expression um for your audience, and that's like the biggest one. Because it's funny, I keep trying to come up with other variations on that idea with the mask, and like I just can't figure out a way to make it as expressive as just being me. So it's like it's just
Yeah.
not
That's what, like, the initial image of them seeing you in like a mask and some armor and some shit, and then 2 songs later, that stuff starts coming off. I've always thought that was really cool, and I've gone to see like a lot of different people do stuff like that. Like you do that.
Mhm.
Uh, Skinny Puppy did that, and I treat myself like I'm a wrestler, but I treat myself like I'm in a band, which is why a lot of my stuff is, even like my online presence is not like other wrestlers' online presence, because I don't, like, I'm in character, but not really. Not so much on
Like,
Facebook,
you've got your
but
catchphrase, and really, it
yeah,
seems to be the only thing you would really need is it's the I'm gonna break my foot off in your ass, something like
yeah,
that.
that's really all you need.
Yeah,
Everything else, you can be like your actual self. So most of the fans that follow me, they follow me because I'm like they're like, oh, he's really like this. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So they know if they go to the goth club, I will probably actually be there.
right.
They
Yeah,
know like the bands that I'm talking about. I actually listen to these bands. You'll probably see me at the concert. I get
right.
picked out and recognized all the time because they're like, oh, wait, you really like this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like that part's not a character. That
Right.
part's real.
Well, and that's good. I mean, with any art, even the art of self-promotion, it's you being as authentic as you can. I mean, it goes a long, it just goes such a long way.
It really does. And some of that gets lost with us because a lot of wrestlers have to play a character that's not necessarily like as much of them in real life. But our most successful stories are people who just were kind of themselves and turned it up. So you can imagine, oh, this is what kind of music the Ultimate Warrior listens to,
Right.
or this is what kind of place the Macho Man would hang out at. And I just took that from, especially from over the years of watching so much wrestling. And you combine that with like influences from like music, movies, and comic books and shit. It just turned into, what if I just showed them what I actually like?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna do that anyway. I'm not gonna hide from people if I'm out in public.
Well, I
So,
think, you're interesting as a person beyond, like you exist as a person beyond just
mhm,
being big, and I think with so many people who get into wrestling, it's like, yeah, they did football, but
yeah,
like, how much what else is in there, and I think if you have it, then you can really use that to as part of your thing. I mean,
yeah,
actually, like there was somebody asked a question online about like, do you have to be attractive to be in a band or do all this stuff?
yeah,
And somebody else responded, well, look, all the attractive people are going to say no. And I was like, so here's the thing. It's not about being attractive. It's about having charisma. Because
hmm,
there are some bands out there that, like, if you were to just Shane McGowan, the perfect from the Pogues, it's a perfect example. He was not an attractive guy. Half of his teeth were rotting out, but
yeah,
everybody loved him. He loved how the person that he was,
yeah,
because he loved it. And again, this kind of goes back to passions, which is when you love the thing that you do, um, you never work a day in your life.
yeah.
Uh, um, so actually, that's a good question too. I mean, I'm sure there must be times where you're like, all right, I have to go and I have to go and do this, and that's just part of, are you able to just drop into the mode and kind of separate out?
Nowadays, yeah. Like early on, I had to like psych myself out to really get into the mode. Now it's like a light switch. Like I can be normal self on one side of the curtain. Then the
Mhm.
second my music comes on and I go through the curtain, I completely transformed. I love when people who know me personally and have never seen me wrestle, I love when they come see me for the first time because
Yep.
they're just like, I've never seen you. Like, you're normally intense, but
Mhm.
where did that come from? And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I don't need to walk around like that.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that
Yep.
kind
Yeah.
of scary. But out there, I need it because the
And your
crowd eats
body is
that up.
an instrument. So how are you? I assume you work out a lot, but I mean, are you really regimented with your diet and things like that?
Yeah, yeah. I don't get to eat like hell like I want to, because there are some days where I'm just like, I just want to eat 5 pizzas and lots of donuts and all. So I can't go crazy. I can, because I've been in fitness for so long, I have a better handle on it now than I did maybe like when I was like 19. But I still have to I still have to stay pretty on schedule. I My workouts are pretty set. A lot of them are, they get crazy. They've gotten crazier as I've gotten older, which I think
Yeah,
is
that was
just
my next question was, as you have aged, have you seen, because you're what, I would mid-30s, somewhere in there.
I'm 38 actually.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, yeah, have you been able to seen the changes that happen? I mean, I think you're still young enough that they're probably not that noticeable, but
No, like in fact, I'm in way better shape at 38 than I was at 21, and I was
mm,
already in shape at 21, which to me is crazy because there's some stuff that I can do now that I would never imagine me doing when I was younger. That's why I'm like, I was never this strong before. I don't know what happened,
uh,
but like sometimes I feel like I'm aging backwards sometimes
that's
because
cool.
people are like, "Oh, you'll slow down or you'll have less stamina or whatever," and I'm like I just had a match. I gotta have 5 or 6 more,
Mhm.
and I would be absolutely fine with that.
I did this one tour. It was only a handful of shows, but I played with all five of the bands on that tour,
Oh shit.
and like in my mid 40s or something like that, and
Hell yeah.
different instruments, everything. And it was definitely one of those things where it's like, okay, I can power through and I can make this work. But if I had
Mm-hmm.
to do that for more than a week, it would have been quite a thing.
Because that's yeah, because that's insane. Especially like you're basically on the whole show.
Yeah, yeah. And there's no real downtime because downtime is like, changing your gear and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, for me, it's always better than a day job. So like,
Yeah, hell yeah.
don't know what
Fuck
else
yeah.
I would do, So what is how does like your standard day, or you arrive at the place and then,
So normally you get to the venue at whatever call time is. We usually by the time you get there, the promoter probably already knows what they want you to do. So you usually, if your opponent's there, you meet with your opponent. You find out, or opponents, because sometimes it's like a bunch of people. You find out what story it is that the promoter wants to be told and how much time you have, because that part's super important. And then
Mhm.
after that, you kind of just left to your own devices until doors open. A lot of that downtime is just you're literally just kind of hanging out with your friends,
Mhm.
which I always think is pretty cool. That you, especially when you do shows that you do a lot, or
Mhm.
like places that you go a lot, so all the other wrestlers are people
Mhm.
that you hang out with. So
Yeah,
you're kind of just, you spend the day hanging out with your friends.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
the show I did today is at a mall, so we walked around the mall after we found out what we were doing, and then we came back and had our match.
Commercial time. So normally I would hold up a product, but I don't actually have a product for this because it kind of only exists in the digital realm. For the last pretty much as long as egos exist, so let's say 23, 24 years, I've had this solo project called Hopeful Machines, and it is kind of my clearinghouse for anything that I just want to, if it's something I want to do, I'll do it, and it goes out under that. A lot of it was made with the gear back there. A lot of it wasn't. It's the kind of thing. If you're into abstract electronic music, then please check it out. It's all free on my Wolfcore website, which is wolfcorerecords.bandcamp.com, I think. So yeah, and it goes really all over the place, from very Tangerine Dream soundscapey stuff to very rhythmic, to very noisy. You can actually hear a lot of proto versions of things that became their own projects. There's a there's a record called "On the Mending of Pack," and it has a bunch of kind of proto Stoneburner sort of stuff. There was another one that I did called "A Shadow the Size of Everything," which is really one of my very favorites, and it kind of one of the songs on there was the impetus for a lot of the Ocellus stuff. So yeah, it's like I said, it's free. So if you just go to the website, you can pick all that stuff up. It's also pay what you want. So I mean, if you want to buy it, that'd be awesome. Oh, also that was the project that the song that I used turned into the song that I wrote for NASA for the OSIRIS-REx mission going to Bennu, and I will tag the video on at the tail end of that, or tail end of this video. Fun fact about that, the guy who's narrating it is a guy named Jason Charles Miller, who had a band called Godhead, and now he's kind of reinvented himself as a country musician. He also does like voiceovers now for Japanese animation and things like that. So he does the dialogue for those. And I've known the dude since he was like 16, since we were both 16. So it's kind of funny that we just ended up working together through NASA, if albeit remotely. So I'll tag that video and maybe a couple of the other Hopeful Machines videos onto the end of this interview. Thanks. Since you have such wrestling as a whole, maybe not even for you, but wrestling as a whole has such a level of theatricality to it, does that ever spill over into people's perceptions of you? I mean, your character is so over the top, but have you ever had people that maybe couldn't separate or know people that had to deal with?
Yeah. And it's always weird because especially with like you do so much in wrestling, like you have to be so many things. Like I gotta be like the photographer and the model and the videographer and all these other things that normally I probably wouldn't do. Like I probably wouldn't post a lot of pictures of myself if I wasn't an entertainer.
Right.
But because I do that, people think certain ways about you. Like I've had people close to me where they're like, "Oh, you love all this attention and you do this," and I'm like, I'm really not like that. Like, and you can tell the difference because when I post, like, especially if you look at my Instagram posts and look at the things I post on like my personal Facebook, you can tell that doesn't come naturally to me. It's work,
right?
And I have to schedule myself to like, hey, look, today you need to take this picture and you're gonna edit it and then you're gonna post it. That's why a lot of times when I take pictures and shit, they're at wrestling shows or they're around something dealing with wrestling because I know I will remember to put on my nice clothes and take pictures. Right. But in normal everyday life, I don't do that because I just don't care.
Right.
But people think because I post a picture like I'm not wearing a shirt or I post like a video of me working out that I'm looking for a certain type of attention and I'm not. I'm just doing my job.
Yeah.
And my friends, like my personal friends, they're like, you never share the stuff that you're doing with us. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. Okay, so I'll take the things I'm gonna put on Instagram and I'll just post them on my personal Facebook so y'all can see them too. Because I just don't think to do it. But people think a lot of different things about you because of that kind of stuff. And really, like realistically speaking, I have a whole lot of confidence, but I really don't think that highly of myself, and I'm not that vain, so I kind of don't.
Yeah, like you see it as this is a thing that I do, but it's not who I am. You know, I when I was younger, I ran into that because people would ask me what I was up to, and I would tell them because I was excited about it. And I would hear back, well, you're just going around talking about all this, bragging about this stuff. I'm like, no, this is just my job, and I'm excited because I've been working hard to accomplish it.
Right. And it's not like, I don't think it's bad to be excited about what you do or proud of what you do. Like, that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. But I think for some people, you know, they just don't have the same confidence or whatever, or sense of self. And that sucks. It's so much of any of this is really just kind of sometimes, Joel, you just gotta say what the fuck, you know, and then you have to follow it up. And there's a very noticeable difference between people who are public that do that and who don't. And how that affects their careers, you know. So.
And it's disheartening sometimes, especially depending on who the person is, And I usually don't really have a problem like dispelling things. Like I tell people all the time, like if you really are that curious, you can absolutely ask me. The
Hmm.
answer's probably gonna surprise you.
Yeah.
Like I've dated girls who are like they like all of that at first
Hmm.
to the dating me, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, you're trying to get these girls to talk to you by posting that picture," and I'm like, "I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
always talking to you. Like that kind of attention I only want from you.
Right.
Uh, Everyone else, like I'm just kind of ignoring it. I can't be mean to them,
Right.
but if they cross the line, of course I can be like, hey, don't do that. But other than that, like I'm not. This is just part of the job. You're
Right.
gonna see me not wearing a shirt anyway if you come to the show because I don't wrestle in a shirt.
Right.
Kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've gotten a lot more used to it nowadays, but like early in the early days, it was hard because I just didn't. I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. And you don't know how to balance it out. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's you know when we started with our bands, we actually had a long conversation to try and figure out like should Donna we be as public about being married.
Mm-hmm.
Because with a lot of female fronted bands, it's like they want them to feel like they're attainable or whatever. But
Yeah.
we decided, yeah, we'll just be married, and it actually worked for us, so
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. But like I know Donna does still periodically get the messages, but
Of course.
it's
People are weird.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's definitely the weird, particularly now with the internet and everything is so instant, and you have to kind of keep that moving.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember like when I first discovered y'all, and this was back when I was using Pandora, and y'all popped up on my Pandora, and that was my introduction to ego likeness. And I like, of course, when I find something I like, I go down a rabbit hole. So like I was like looking up all the things, and I thought it was the coolest fucking thing ever that y'all were a husband and a wife band. That's fucking cool as fuck. And I was like, that's fucking because I had never seen that before,
Uh-huh.
actually. But that's fucking cool. More people should do that. What the fuck?
It's well, I certainly understand why many people don't. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not easy, but
Yeah.
you know, it's equally rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
It's always amazing to stand up on stage with my wife and watch her from this side, kind of doing what she does well. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's always very, very cool.
And
Um,
I see like the way y'all interact on stage it's really fucking cool. And anytime I bring somebody to see y'all, I always tell them I'm like I want you to watch how they interact with each other because it's fucking cool as fuck, and it adds so much to the
that's cool.
performance. Like it's really fucking dope.
My biggest point of pride is that I think in 25 years of doing this with her, I think I've only run into her like twice. And both times it
Fucking
was
cool.
very minor. Like, and with the amount that we both move on stage now, it's definitely
Mm-hmm.
one of those things like I imagine you're very experienced with it where you just kind of know where the
Yeah.
entity is all the time. You're
Mm-hmm.
not looking at them.
Yeah. Because we have to do that with the referee and
Mhm.
especially the referee and the camera people. You
Mhm.
don't want to knock them over. You definitely don't want to like collide into them in a way that like takes them out of what they need to be doing, especially the camera people because they're usually holding big ass fucking cameras.
So
And
if
that was
somebody wanted to do what you do, how would they like from zero, how would they get started finding a trainer or whatever?
so now, especially depending on where you live, most states have at least one reputable wrestling school. Well, most like if you live in like North Dakota, you might have to move, but it's easy now as just getting online and googling wrestling schools near me, and
Mm.
wherever you are you'll probably find the closest school. Now some places are hotter than others, like Atlanta, Florida, fucking New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, places like that. You are surrounded by great wrestling schools. California, you're surrounded by great wrestling schools. St. Louis, the same thing. And then there's just the little places in between. Texas is great. So, and you literally just show up there and tell them you want to sign up.
Mhm.
Of course, you have to pay, and
Right.
then you're good to go. Most places work with you on payments.
Mhm.
If you're not in shape, they get you in shape. Like I showed up already in shape, but for a lot of people, wrestling, especially a lot of wrestlers who because we're all weird people. We were all like probably nerdy or whatever the fuck, and you didn't know like you needed to be in shape to do this, or you didn't think you could get in shape. I've seen so many people who started, they were like 300 pounds, and now they're 240 and super jacked because wrestling made them get in shape.
Right.
So they like a lot of it comes to you because of this. So it's just a matter of like finding a school and showing up there. And that's the hard part, is being brave enough to show up there.
Right.
Because you don't know how much it's gonna hurt, or you don't know like how much you're gonna be pushed. But it's physical as hell. It's just part of the game.
Right. Right. And if you had any like, I don't know, just general advice or lesson beyond that for it.
So the number one thing, and this still applies to me too, is to always be willing to listen and use what you can use and throw away the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's gonna give you advice, and it's not all gonna be good advice. It took me a long time to realize that
Mm-hmm.
everything everybody's telling me, I can't do all of it. Like
Right.
some of it's useless, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be rude with them about it, but you just take it and you appreciate them wanting to help. Because a lot of times when people, especially in wrestling, when people give you advice, they're actually trying to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Now their advice might be worthless, and that's okay. You don't have to use it, or maybe you can't use it right now. Maybe you use it
Right.
later.
Yeah, it's always good to have all that
got.
shit, you know.
Mm-hmm. Like I had to take that shit. I'm like, I can't do nothing with that today,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe next month I could probably use that thing he told me.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people all the time, just you could take everybody's advice, hold on to that shit, and just whatever you can use it. Whatever you can't, throw shit away. Like, don't let it fucking stop you from trying things. Because a lot of like, and maybe this might happen. Actually, this probably does happen in music too, especially when it comes to like genres and shit. A lot of shit people think should be set one way, and it really doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I tell wrestlers to just do what feels right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And just do it safely, and the rest of it will make sense later, because it will. Like, it took me a long while, especially in this character, to wrestle in a way that makes sense for this character, because the character's a demon. Like, there's a lot of stuff I don't have to do. Like, I don't have to grapple with anybody. I'm a goddamn demon. Why are you strong enough to grapple with me?
Right.
But I also can't make myself so strong that no one can hurt me, because then that's boring. So there has to be a line. So there's just less stuff that I do. So like
I assume that this has always been your character. Did you have a different one before that?
Yes and no. Like my character before now was just kind of way more normal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then that guy. So the character I was just kind of a generic wrestler who was happy to be here. And then he went crazy. And then he went crazy and died. Uh-huh. And ended up in hell and just took over that place and came back because he just likes being on Earth.
Man, I really, when you began that story, I was really hoping it was going to go like that.
That's literally what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing that keeps me my thing that keeps the character grounded is that the rule is I'm not really allowed to use too much of my powers on Earth because it would cause the apocalypse. Because then heaven gets mad and they're like, why are there demons doing things on Earth? That's not what we agreed on. And I'm like, fine. And it gives me an excuse to be able to be hurt. It gives me an excuse to be able to die. It gives me an excuse to be able to be beaten in matches because I can only be so strong.
Right. Yeah.
So I can only be as strong as this body will allow.
Mm-hmm.
And that explains away a lot of the shit. So people are like, how come you're not just invincible and you don't just light people on fire and win? Well, I can't. Right. Because I'll destroy the universe.
Well, it's always good to be responsible like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, on. Well, I'll let you go and be out of the for the night. I'm gonna, before these will all go up all at once, which will be in a few weeks or a month or something, and I'll drop you a line then to find out if there's anything that's happening in that time period that you want to let people know about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can people find you?
So my name on all the social medias is the exact same everywhere, thankfully. It's Trever Aeon, Trever Aeon, because I'm obsessed with time. So all of my things are references to time. That's why I spell Trevor with the word ever in it. And I have the word Eon, and I use the AEON because I stole it from the Eon Flux cartoon. But I am Trever Aeon on literally everything, even TikTok. I'm still getting used to TikTok. I don't quite understand it, but I'm trying.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I tried a few times, and it's just I don't
I
work with
del-
small chunks. So
I've deleted it like 3 times, and I keep making a new one. And I'm like, okay, this time I have a good plan. Whatever I put on Instagram, I will just put on TikTok after. So it's literally just copy paste.
right, right.
Because if I don't do that, I'll never use it. It's hard managing all these socials.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and have a great next number of fights. And I'm sure we'll run across each other during the year.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.